Hello, welcome to Storytime again. It's so good to be able to do this together, sort of together. Let's do our opening song, shall we? We make the sign for hello, and we make the sign for friends, and we sing, hello friends, hello friends, hello friends, it's time to read a book. Great. This is virtual story time number 5, I believe, and I thought it might be fun to read some books about teddy bears. Does that sound good? Do you guys recognize who this is right here with me? Paddington, right. So let's read a book called Paddington by Michael Bond. We're going to read some older books today. I mean, of course, you can still buy them at the bookstore, but they were written a long time ago. Mr. and Mrs. Brown first met Paddington on a railway platform. In fact, that was how he came to have such an unusual name for a bear, because Paddington was the name of the station. The Browns were waiting to meet their daughter, Judy, when Mr. Brown noticed something small and furry over near the luggage, at the left luggage office. It looks like a bear, he said. A bear, repeated Mrs. Brown, in Paddington Station? Don't be silly, Henry, that can't be. Oh, but Mr. Brown was right. It was sitting on an old leather suitcase marked Wanted on Voyage, and as they drew near, it stood up and politely raised its hat. Good afternoon, it said. May I help you? It's very kind of you, said Mr. Brown, but as a matter of fact, we were wondering if we could help you. You're a very small bear, said Mrs. Brown. Where are you from? The bear looked around carefully before replying. Darkest Peru. I'm not really supposed to be here at all. I'm a stowaway. You don't mean to say you've come all the way from South America on your own, exclaimed Mrs. Brown. Whatever did you do for food? Unlocking the suitcase, the bear took out an almost empty glass jar. I ate marmalade, he said. Bears like marmalade. Mrs. Brown looked at the label around the bear's neck. You can see this label here, too. It said, quite simply, please look after this bear. Thank you. Oh, Henry, she cried. We can't leave him here all by himself. There's no knowing what might happen to him. Can't he come home and stay with us? Stay with us? Repeated Mr. Brown nervously. He looked down at the bear. Would you like to do that? He asked. That is, he added hastily, if you have nothing else planned. Oh, yes, replied the bear. I would like that very much. I've nowhere to go, and everyone seems in such a hurry. That settles it, said Mrs. Brown. Now, you must be thirsty after your journey. Mr. Brown can get you some tea while I go and meet our daughter, Judy. But, Mary, said Mr. Brown, we don't even know its name. Mrs. Brown thought for a moment. I know, she said. We'll call him Paddington, after the station. Paddington. The bear tested it several times to make sure. Paddington. It sounds very important. Mr. Brown tried it out next. Follow me, Paddington, he said. I'll take you to the snack bar. Mr. Brown was as good as his word. Paddington had never seen so many snacks on one tray, and he didn't know which one to try first.
He's spilling the coffee.
Oh my goodness, he's spilling the coffee. He was so hungry and thirsty that he climbed up onto the table to get a better look. Mr. Brown turned away, pretending he had tea with a bear at Paddington Station every day of his life. Henry, cried Mrs. Brown when she arrived with Judy, what are you doing to that poor bear? Paddington jumped up to raise his hat, and in his haste he slipped on a strawberry tart, skidded on the cream, and fell over backward into his cup of tea. You're right, he spilled his tart and his his tea and everything else. I think we'd better go before anything else happens, said Mr. Brown. Judy took hold of Paddington's paw. Come along, she said. We'll take you home, and you can meet Mrs. Bird and my brother Jonathan. Mr. Brown led the way to a waiting taxi. Number 32, Windsor Gardens, please, he said. The driver stared at Paddington. Bears is extra, he growled. Sticky bears is twice as much. And make sure none of it comes off on my interior. It was clean when I set out this morning. Taxi driver's not very excited about having a sticky bear in his car, is he? The sun was shining as they drove out of the station, and there were cars and big red buses everywhere. Paddington waved to some people waiting at a bus stop, and several of them waved back. It was all very friendly. Paddington tapped the taxi driver on his shoulder. It isn't a bit like darkest Peru, he announced. The man jumped at the sound of Paddington's voice. Cream, he said bitterly. Cream and jam all over my coat. He slid the little window behind him shut. Oh dear, Henry, murmured Mrs. Brown. I wonder if we're doing the right thing. Fortunately, before anyone had time to answer, they arrived at Windsor Gardens, and Judy helped Paddington onto the pavement. Now you're going to meet Mrs. Bird, she said. She looks after us. She's a bit fierce at times, but she doesn't really mean it. I'm sure you'll like her. Paddington felt his knees begin to wobble. I'm sure I shall if you say so, he replied. The thing is, will she like me? Goodness gracious, exclaimed Mrs. Bird. What have we got here? It's not a what, said Judy. It's a bear called Paddington, and he's coming to stay with us. A bear, said Mrs. Bird, as Paddington raised his hat. Well, he has good manners. I'll say that for him. I'm afraid I stepped on a jam tart by mistake, said Paddington. I can see that, said Mrs. Bird. You'd better have a bath before you're very much older. Judy can turn it on for you. I dare say you'll be wanting some marmalade, too. I think she likes you, whispered Judy. Paddington had never been in a bathroom before. While the water was running, he made himself at home. First of all, he tried writing his new name on the steam in the mirror. Then he used Mr. Brown's shaving cream to draw a map of Peru on the floor. It wasn't until a drip landed on his head that he remembered what he was supposed to be doing. He soon discovered that getting into a bath is one thing, but it's quite another matter getting out again. He couldn't get out, especially when it's full of soapy water. Paddington tried calling out, "Help!" At first in a quiet voice so as not to disturb anyone, then very loudly, "Help! Help!" But when that didn't work, he began bailing the water out with his hat. But the hat had several holes in it, and his map of Peru soon turned into a sea of foam. What a mess. Suddenly, Jonathan and Judy burst into the bathroom and lifted a dripping Paddington onto the floor. "Oh, thank goodness you're all right," cried Judy. "We heard you calling out." "Fancy making such a mess," said Jonathan admiringly. "You should have pulled the plug out." "Oh," said Paddington. "I never thought of that." When Paddington came downstairs, he looked so clean that no one could possibly be cross with him. His fur was all soft and silky, his nose gleamed, and his paws had lost all traces of the jam and cream. He looks good. The Browns made room for him in a small armchair, and Mrs. Bird brought him a pot of tea and a plate of hot buttered toast and marmalade. "Now," said Mrs. Brown, "you must tell us all about yourself. I'm sure you must have had lots of adventures." "I have," said Paddington earnestly. "Things are always happening to me. I'm that sort of a bear." He settled back in the armchair. I was brought up by my Aunt Lucy in darkest Peru, he began, but she had to go into a home for retired bears in Lima. He closed his eyes thoughtfully, and a hush fell over the room as everyone waited expectantly. For they are waiting for his story of where he came from and what he's done, all his adventures. After a while, when nothing happened, they began to get restless. Mr. Brown tried coughing. Then he reached across and poked Paddington. "Well, I never," he said. "I do believe he's fast asleep." "After all that's happened to him," said Mrs. Brown, "is it any wonder?" The end. The end. That's one story about a bear, and I thought we could read another story about another bear.
And then some buttons.
Yep, come on over here, please. Corduroy.
Buttons.
This is Corduroy by Don Freeman. I bet most of you know this one, but it's always fun to reread it.
One button. This
I
one.
need you to sit down in the chair, please.
This one.
Thank you. Corduroy is a bear who once lived in the toy department of a big store. Day after day, he waited with all the other animals and dolls for somebody to come along and take him home. The store was always filled with shoppers buying all sorts of things, but no one ever seemed to want a small bear in green overalls. Then one morning, a little girl stopped and looked straight into Corduroy's bright eyes. "Oh, Mommy," she said, "look, there's the very bear I've always wanted." "Not today, dear," her mother sighed. "I've spent too much already. Besides, he doesn't look new. He's lost the button to one of his shoulder straps." Corduroy watched them sadly as they walked away. "I didn't know I'd lost a button," he said to himself. "Tonight, I'll go and see if I can find it." Late that evening, when all the shoppers had gone and the doors were shut and locked, Corduroy climbed carefully down from his shelf and began searching everywhere on the floor for his lost button. Suddenly, he felt the floor moving under him. Quite by accident, he had stepped onto an escalator, and up he went. Could this be a mountain? He wondered. I think I've always wanted to climb a mountain. Is that a mountain? He stepped off the escalator as it reached the next floor, and there before his eyes was a most amazing sight. Tables and chairs and lamps and sofas and rows of beds. "This must be a palace," Corduroy gasped. "I guess I've always wanted to live in a palace." I'm having trouble turning the pages. There we go. He wandered around, admiring the furniture. "This must be a bed," he said. "I've always wanted to sleep in a bed." And up he crawled onto a large, thick mattress. All at once he saw something small and round. "Why, here's my button," he cried, and he tried to pick it up. But like all the other buttons on the mattress, it was tied down tight. He yanked and pulled with both paws until, pop, off came the button, and off the mattress Corduroy toppled. Bang into a tall floor lamp. Over it fell with a crash. Corduroy didn't know it, but there was someone else awake in the store. The night watchman was going his rounds on the floor above. When he heard the crash, he came dashing down the escalator. "Now, who in the world did that?" he exclaimed. "Somebody must be hiding around here." He flashed his light under and over sofas and beds until he came to the biggest bed of all, and there he saw 2 fuzzy brown ears sticking up from under the cover. "Hello," he said. "How did you get upstairs?" watchman tucked Corduroy under his arm and carried him down the escalator and set him on the shelf in the toy department with the other animals and dolls. Corduroy was just waking up when the first customers came into the store in the morning, and there, looking at him with a wide, warm smile, was the same little girl he had seen only the day before. "I'm Lisa," she said, "and you're going to be my very own bear. Last night I counted what I've saved in my piggy bank, and my mother said I could bring you home." "Shall I put him in a box for you?" the saleslady asked. "Oh, no thank you," Lisa answered, and she carried Corduroy home in her arms. She ran all the way up 4 flights of stairs into her family's apartment and straight to her own room. Corduroy blinked. There was a chair and a chest of drawers, and alongside the girl-sized bed stood a little bed just the right size for him. The room was small, nothing like that enormous palace in the department store. "This must be home," he said. "I know I've always wanted a home." Lisa sat down with Corduroy on her lap and began to sew a button on his overalls. "I like you the way you are," she said, "but you'll be more comfortable with your shoulder strap fastened." "You must be a friend," said Corduroy. "I've always wanted a friend." "Me too," said Lisa, and gave him a big hug.
Another one.
Yes, we'll do another one, but let's look at our buttons here for a minute. I have here, can you guys see them? A handful of buttons. Let's sit down so people can see at home too. What color is this button? You can answer. What color is this one?
Green.
Green, right? Did you guys get that? Okay. What color is this button?
Yellow.
Yellow. What color is this button?
Blue.
Blue. What color is this button?
White.
White. What color is this button?
Pink.
Pink. What color is this button?
Red.
Red. What color is this button? Is it hard to tell?
Purple.
Purple, yes it is. And do you know what color this one is?
Blue.
It's blue or turquoise. Yeah, a special kind of blue. So what I wondered was, if you were Corduroy and you had to pick a button for your overalls, which one would you pick? We can see what Adeline would pick, and then you guys could choose at home what you would pick. What would you pick?
I think this was my button.
You think that one? The white button would be good for your overalls, huh? Nice.
Yes.
Good. Good choice. Okay. Nice. I hope you guys all chose a button in your minds. All right. Let's do, the next book we're going to read is about another book about a teddy bear. So let's do a little song about a teddy bear first, shall we?
Yes.
Okay.
And
All right.
I'm going to put my
Okay, sounds
button
good.
back there.
All right, are you ready? So this is called Teddy Bear, right? And we do Teddy Bear, turn around, Teddy Bear, touch the ground. Okay, so you guys can do it with me, all right? And you can too if you want. Teddy Bear, turn around. Teddy Bear, touch the ground. Can you do it? Teddy Bear, reach up high. Teddy Bear, touch the sky. Teddy Bear, bend down low. Teddy Bear, touch your toes. Teddy Bear, go to bed. Teddy Bear, rest your head. Teddy Bear, turn out the lights. Teddy Bear, say good night.
Pokey poke.
Pokey poke. Let's read another teddy bear book, shall we? This is one of my favorite books called Ira Sleeps Over. I'm reading an older one, but that's okay. It's by Bernard Weber. I was invited to sleep at Reggie's house. Was I happy? I had never slept at a friend's house before. But I had a problem. It began when my sister said, "Are you taking your teddy bear along?" "Taking my teddy bear along," I said. "To my friend's house? Are you kidding? That's the silliest thing I ever heard. Of course I'm not taking my teddy bear." And then she said, "But you've never slept without your teddy bear before. How will you feel sleeping without your teddy bear for the very first time?" "I'll feel fine. I'll feel great. I will probably love sleeping without my teddy bear. Just don't worry about it," I said. "Who's worried?" she said. But now she had me thinking about it. Now she really had me thinking about it. I began to wonder, suppose I won't like sleeping without my teddy bear? Suppose I just hate sleeping without my teddy bear? Should I take him? "Take him," said my mother. "Take him," said my father. "But Reggie will laugh," I said. "He'll say I'm a baby." "He won't laugh," said my mother. "He won't laugh," said my father. "He'll laugh," said my sister. I decided not to take my teddy bear. That afternoon, I played with Reggie. Reggie had plans, big plans. "Tonight," he said, "when you come to my house, we are going to have fun, fun, fun. First, I'll show you my junk collection. After that, we'll have a wrestling match. And after that, a pillow fight. And after that, we'll do magic tricks. And after that, we'll play checkers. And after that, we'll play dominoes. And after that, we can fool around with my magnifying glass." "Great," I said. I could hardly wait. "By the way," I asked, "what do you think of teddy bears?" But Reggie just went on talking and planning as if he had never heard of teddy bears. And after that, he said, "Do you know what we can do after that? I mean, when the lights are out and the house is really dark, guess what we can do?" "What?" I asked. We can tell ghost stories." "Ghost stories," I said. "Ghost stories," said Reggie. "Scary, creepy, spooky ghost stories." I began to think about my teddy bear. "Does your house get very dark?" I asked. "Uh-huh," said Reggie. "Very, very dark?" "Uh-huh," said Reggie. "By the way," I said again, "what do you think of teddy bears?" Suddenly, Reggie was in a big hurry to go someplace. "See you tonight," he said. "See you," I said. I decided to take my teddy bear. "Good," said my mother. "Good," said my father. But my sister said, "What if Reggie wants to know your teddy bear's name? Did you think about that? And did you think about how he will laugh and say, 'Ta-ta' is a silly baby name, even for a teddy bear?" "He won't ask," I said. "He'll ask," she said. I decided not to take my teddy bear. At last, it was time to go to Reggie's house. "Good night," said my mother. "Good night," said my father. "Sleep tight," said my sister. I went next door where Reggie lived. That night, Reggie showed me his junk. He showed me his flashlight collection, his collection of bottle caps, a chain made of chewing gum wrappers, some picture postcards, an egg timer, jumbo goggles, a false nose and mustache, and a bunch of old rubber stamps and labels from his father's office. They have a blast, aren't they? We decided decided to play office with the rubber stamps. After that, we had a wrestling match, and after that, we had a pillow fight, and after that, Reggie's father said, "Bedtime." "Already?" said Reggie. "Already," said his father. We got into bed. "Good night," said Reggie's father. "Good night," we said. Reggie sighed. I sighed. "We can still tell ghost stories," said Reggie. "Do you know any?" I asked. "Uh-huh," said Reggie. Reggie began to tell a ghost story. Once there was this ghost, and he lived in a haunted house, only he did most of the haunting himself. This house was empty except for this ghost because nobody wanted to go near this house. They were so afraid of this ghost. And every night this ghost would walk around this house and make all kinds of clunky, creaky sounds, a-room, like that. And he would go around looking for people to scare because that's what he liked to do, scare people. And he was very scary to look at. Oh, was he scary to look at. Reggie stopped. "Are you scared?" he asked. "Uh-huh," I said. "Are you?" "What?" said Reggie. "Are you scared?" "Just a minute," said Reggie. "I have to get something." "What do you have to get?" I asked. "Oh, something," said Reggie. Reggie pulled the something out of a drawer. The room was dark, but I could see it had fuzzy arms and legs and was about the size of a teddy bear. I looked again. It was a teddy bear. Reggie got back into bed. "Now, about this ghost," he said. "Is that your teddy bear?" I asked. "What?" said Reggie. "Is that your teddy bear?" "You mean this teddy bear?" That one you're holding," I said. "Uh-huh," Reggie answered. "Do you sleep with him all of the time?" "Uh-huh." "Oh, sorry, what?" said Reggie. "Uh-huh. Does your teddy bear have a name?" "Does your teddy bear have a name?" I said louder. "Uh-huh," Reggie answered. "What is it?" "You won't laugh?" said Reggie. "No, I won't laugh," I said. "Promise?" "I promise." "It's Foo-Foo." "Did you say Foo-Foo?" "Uh-huh," said Reggie. "Just a minute," I said. "I have to get something." "What do you have to get?" asked Reggie. "Oh, something," I answered. The next minute I was ringing my own doorbell. The door opened. "Ira," everyone said. "What are you doing here?" "I changed my mind," I answered. "You what?" said my mother. "You what?" said my father. "You what?" said my sister. She was still up. "I changed my mind," I said. "I decided to take Tata after all." I went upstairs. Soon I was down again with Tata. My sister said, "Reggie will laugh. You'll see how he'll laugh. He's just going to fall down laughing." "He won't laugh," said my mother. "He won't laugh," said my father. "He won't laugh," I said. I came back to Reggie's room. "I have a teddy bear too," I said. "Do you want to know his name?" I waited for Reggie to say, "Uh-huh." But Reggie didn't say, "Uh-huh." Reggie didn't say anything. I looked at Reggie. He was fast asleep. Just like that, he had fallen asleep. "Reggie, wake up," I said. "You have to finish telling the ghost story." But Reggie just held his teddy bear closer and went right on sleeping. And after that, well, there wasn't anything to do after that. "Good night," I whispered to Tata, and I fell asleep too. Isn't that a fun story? I like that one. I think it might be time for our weekly Zoom, Zoom, Zoom song. Should we do that?
I want to read another.
We'll do some more after the story time, okay? Do you want to come up here and do it with me? Or do you want to do it where you are? We'll do it 2 times. Okay. All right. Zoom, zoom, zoom. We're going going to the moon. Zoom, 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 we're going to the moon. If you want to take a trip, climb aboard my rocket ship. Zoom, 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 we're going to the moon. Count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off! Let's do it one more time. Zoom, 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 you're going to the moon. Zoom, 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 we're going to the moon. If you want to take a trip, climb aboard my rocket ship. Zoom, 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 we're going to the moon. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off! Nice job. All right, thank you guys for coming and reading about teddy bears. Those are fun times, huh? Okay, we're going to do our goodbye song.
No, I don't want to.
But we have to.
I
All right.
Want to.
We'll do some more reading after that, but we have to say goodbye to our friends on the camera, okay? Okay, we say goodbye, friends. Goodbye, friends. Goodbye, friends. It's time to say goodbye. Nice. Thanks for listening, you guys. I hope to see you soon at BookBug. Have a good week. Bye.